Hey everyone, if you've got soil that's just completely worn out, maybe from years of growing the same crops, or it's just naturally poor, you're probably wondering how to bring it back to life without spending a fortune on amendments. Well, nature's got your back. Today we're diving into 5 incredible plants that can naturally rebuild depleted soil, and the best part, most of these are easy to grow and some of them even give you benefits while they're doing the work. Let's get into it. Comfrey. First up, we've got comfrey, and this plant is an absolute powerhouse when it comes to soil regeneration. Comfrey has this incredibly deep taproot system. We're talking roots that can go down 6 to 10 feet into the ground. What that means is it's pulling up nutrients and minerals from way down deep, stuff that other plants can't even reach. We're talking potassium, phosphorus, calcium, and a whole range of trace minerals. Now here's where comfrey gets really interesting. Those big, lush leaves are packed with all those nutrients it's mining from deep in the soil. When those leaves break down, they release everything back into your topsoil where your vegetables and other plants can actually use it. But, and this is important, you do not want to plant comfrey directly in your garden beds. Anyone who's grown this stuff will tell you, it's nearly impossible to get rid of once it's established. Even a tiny piece of root left in the ground will sprout a whole new plant. So here's what you do instead. Plant your comfrey in a dedicated area, somewhere off to the side. Then, throughout the growing season, you can harvest those nutrient-rich leaves and use them in 2 ways. The first method is what's called chop and drop. You literally cut the leaves and lay them directly on the soil in your garden beds. They'll break down fairly quickly, releasing all those nutrients right where you want them. The second method is to add those leaves to your compost pile. When the compost is finished, you mix it into your depleted soil. Either way, you're getting all the benefits of comfrey's deep nutrient mining without turning your garden into a permanent comfrey jungle. Some people even make what's called comfrey tea. Basically, you let the leaves steep in water for a few weeks, and you end up with a concentrated liquid fertilizer. It smells absolutely terrible, fair warning, but plants love it. The real magic of comfrey is that it's like having a living nutrient pump. It keeps pulling from deep in the subsoil and delivering it to the surface where you need it. Year after year, it's working for you. Before we go on, make sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. Now, speaking of plants that fix problems from the ground up, let's talk about one that literally pulls nitrogen out of thin air. Clover. Clover is one of those plants that seems almost too good to be true, but it absolutely delivers. The secret weapon here is nitrogen fixation. Clover is a legume, and like all legumes, it has this special relationship with bacteria in the soil called rhizobia. These bacteria form little nodules on the clover's roots, and inside those nodules, they're taking nitrogen from the air and converting it into a form that plants can actually use. Nitrogen is one of the big 3 nutrients that plants need, and it's usually the first thing to get depleted in tired soil. Synthetic fertilizers can add it back, but they're expensive and they don't do anything for soil health long term. Clover, on the other hand, is adding nitrogen naturally while also improving soil structure. Here's how you can use it. You can plant clover as a cover crop between your main growing seasons. Let's say your garden beds are empty in fall after you've harvested your summer crops. Sow some clover, let it grow through winter if your climate allows, and then in spring, you cut it down and work it into the soil a few weeks before planting. All that nitrogen-rich plant material breaks down and feeds your next round of crops. Or you can use clover as a living mulch. Plant it between your rows or around your main crops. It'll cover the soil, suppress weeds, retain moisture, and the whole time it's fixing nitrogen. When you eventually cut it back or till it under, you're adding even more organic matter and nutrients. There are different types of clover too. White clover is probably the most common. It's low-growing and handles foot traffic well, so some people even use it in pathways. Red clover grows taller and produces more biomass, which means more organic matter to work into your soil. Crimson clover is beautiful with those bright red flowers, and it's great for attracting pollinators while it's doing its soil building work. The other thing about clover is it's tough. It'll grow in poor soil. In fact, that's exactly where you want it, and it doesn't need much maintenance. Just scatter the seed, keep it watered until it establishes, and then it pretty much takes care of itself. But if you want to talk about a plant that physically breaks up tough, compacted soil, you're going to love what's coming next. Daikon radish. Daikon radish, also called tillage radish, is like nature's rototiller, and it's perfect for soil that's not just depleted but also compacted. This thing grows a root that can go down 12 inches or more, and it's thick, like the size of your forearm in some cases. As that root pushes down through the soil, it's literally breaking up hardpan and compacted layers that would take serious machinery to deal with otherwise. Here's why that matters. Compacted soil is a huge problem. Water can't drain properly, air can't get to the roots of your plants, and roots themselves can't penetrate down to find moisture and nutrients. When you've got hardpan, you've got poor growing conditions no matter what you do. Daikon radish solves this problem naturally. The other cool thing about daikon is what happens after it does its job. In most climates, daikon is planted in late summer or early fall. It grows through fall, that big taproot drilling down and breaking everything up. Then, when winter hits and temperatures drop, the plant dies. That root, it decomposes in place, and here's where it gets even better. As it breaks down, it leaves behind channels in the soil. Those channels become pathways for water to drain, for air to circulate, and for the roots of your next crops to follow. It's like the daikon is creating a network of tunnels that make the soil more alive and functional. While it's growing, daikon also pulls up nutrients from deeper soil layers, similar to comfrey but in a different way. When the plant breaks down, those nutrients are released into your topsoil. You're essentially mining your subsoil for resources without disturbing the soil structure. A lot of farmers and gardeners use daikon as part of a cover crop mix. You might plant it alongside other covers like clover or vetch, so you're getting nitrogen fixation and soil breaking at the same time. Come spring, everything has broken down naturally, and you can plant directly into soil that's been aerated, enriched, and made more workable. One thing to keep in mind, if you're in a warmer climate where the ground doesn't freeze hard, you might need to mow down or manually kill the daikon before it goes to seed, because they can reseed themselves pretty aggressively. You don't want your garden turning into a daikon forest when you're trying to grow tomatoes. Coming up, we're going to talk about a plant that's been called the queen of forages, and has roots that can go even deeper than what we've already covered. Alfalfa. Alfalfa is a serious heavy hitter when it comes to soil improvement, and it's been used for this purpose for literally thousands of years. Like clover, alfalfa is a legume, so it's fixing nitrogen from the atmosphere. But where alfalfa really stands out is the depth and extent of its root system. We're talking roots that can reach down 10, 15, even 20 feet in the right conditions. That's deeper than pretty much any vegetable you'd ever grow. Why does that matter? Because alfalfa is accessing a completely different layer of the soil profile than your typical garden plants. It's pulling up nutrients from way down deep, minerals like calcium, magnesium, potassium, phosphorus, things that have leached down over time or were never available at the surface to begin with. When the plant dies back or when you cut it and work it into the soil, all those nutrients become available in the root zone where your vegetables can actually use them. The root system also does another job. It breaks up compacted soil and improves drainage, similar to the daikon radish but on a much larger scale over time. Those deep roots create channels that improve water infiltration and soil structure. Even after the alfalfa is gone, The benefits remain because of how it's changed the physical structure of your soil. Alfalfa is also incredibly rich in nitrogen. When you incorporate alfalfa into your soil, whether it's the whole plant or just the cuttings, it breaks down and releases a significant nitrogen boost. Some people grow alfalfa in a separate area and then harvest it multiple times a season to use as a green manure. You cut it, let it wilt a bit, and then work it into your garden beds. Each cutting adds more organic matter and more nitrogen. Now, here's the trade-off with alfalfa. It's a perennial, and it wants to stick around for several years. That makes it less ideal for annual garden beds where you're constantly planting and harvesting different crops. It's better suited for areas you can dedicate to it for a while, or for improving soil in spaces you're not immediately going to use for production. Some people will plant alfalfa in a field or bed that's been really depleted, let it grow for a year or two, and then terminate it and start gardening in that renewed soil. Because alfalfa is so deeply rooted, it's also drought-tolerant once established. It's not demanding, it doesn't need a lot of inputs, and it's constantly working to improve the soil beneath it. And speaking of plants that improve soil while being incredibly low maintenance, the last one on our list might just be the fastest growing option you could choose. Buckwheat. Buckwheat is like the sprinter of cover crops. While most of the plants we've talked about take weeks or months to really do their thing, buckwheat goes from seed to full growth in about 30 to 40 days. That makes it perfect for filling in gaps in your planting schedule or for quickly adding organic matter to depleted soil. Even though buckwheat grows fast, it's surprisingly effective. The plants grow thick and dense, and they cover the soil quickly, which helps suppress weeds. That dense growth also acts as a living mulch. It shades the soil, keeps it cooler, and helps retain moisture. When you eventually cut it down and work it into the soil, you're adding a substantial amount of organic matter in a really short time frame. Buckwheat is also great at scavenging phosphorus. Phosphorus is one of those nutrients that's often present in soil but locked up in forms that plants can't easily access. Buckwheat has this ability to mobilize that phosphorus and make it available. When the buckwheat breaks down, that phosphorus is released in a plant-available form for whatever you grow next. The root system isn't as deep as something like alfalfa or daikon, but it's still beneficial. Buckwheat roots improve soil structure, and they also support beneficial soil microorganisms. There's research showing that buckwheat can actually help increase mycorrhizal fungi in the soil, which is huge for long-term soil health. Another bonus, buckwheat flowers are absolutely fantastic for pollinators. If you've got a buckwheat patch in bloom, you'll see it covered in bees. So while you're improving your soil, you're also supporting the pollinators that help your garden produce. One thing to watch with buckwheat is that it reseeds itself really easily. If you let it go to seed, you might end up with buckwheat popping up everywhere the following season. For a lot of people, that's not a big deal, you can just pull it or mow it down. But if you want to avoid that, make sure you cut it down before it sets seed. The good news is that because buckwheat grows so fast, you can time it pretty easily. Plant it, let it grow for 4 to 6 weeks, cut it down before seed set, and work it into the soil. You've just added a ton of organic matter in less than 2 months. Some gardeners plant buckwheat in succession, meaning they'll sow it, cut it down, sow it again, and repeat throughout the season. Each time, they're building more organic matter, improving soil structure, and increasing biological activity in the soil. Bringing it all together. So there you have it, 5 plants that can take tired, worn-out soil and turn it into something productive again. Comfrey mines deep nutrients that you can harvest and move wherever you need them. Clover fixes nitrogen and adds organic matter while requiring almost no effort. Daikon radish breaks up compaction and creates pathways for water and roots. Alfalfa reaches incredibly deep and brings up nutrients from layers most plants never touch. And buckwheat gives you fast results with organic matter and phosphorus availability. The beautiful thing is you don't have to choose just one. A lot of gardeners and farmers use these plants in combination, maybe clover and daikon together in fall, or buckwheat followed by alfalfa in a longer-term rotation. You can tailor your approach based on what your soil needs most. Rebuilding soil isn't always fast, but using these plants makes it natural, sustainable, and honestly pretty rewarding to watch. You're not just fixing a problem, you're building a foundation for better growing for years to come. That's all for now. Subscribe to see more.